Hey guys, it's Hannah, and today I'm coming to you with my book review for Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. So Crooked Kingdom is the second book in the Six of Crows duology, and it takes place in this fantasy world, and we follow around these 6 characters who are all commissioned to go on this heist. The heist pretty much covers the whole plot of the first book, and then in this book we pick up with the characters right where the last book left off as they face a whole new set of adventures. So because this is the second book in a series, I can't go too in depth without giving away spoilers, but I will just give you guys a quick overall snippet of my thoughts on this. I loved Six of Crows. I thought it was fantastic. I loved the characters, I liked the plot, the writing was really fun, the world building was fantastic. But then I read Crooked Kingdom, and Crooked Kingdom takes everything to a whole new level. I absolutely love the Grisha world. It is so complex and intricate. It is one of the best YA fantasy worlds I've ever read about. The writing in here is also just fantastic. It's sharp, quick-witted, and also very funny at times. And my absolute favorite part of this book are the characters. They are so incredible. You have a wonderfully diverse cast of characters in terms of race, sexuality, ability, and it is so wonderful to see that with so many characters in this series who are main characters. The themes in here are also so meaningful. This book tackles so many difficult topics like oppression and slavery and addiction and just so many things in such an articulate and respectful way, and that is so refreshing to read about in a YA series. So clearly, overall, I really loved this book. I honestly have nothing but good things to say about it. It was just such an incredible read, and so far it is hands down my favorite read of 2016. So if you haven't started this series yet, I highly recommend it. A lot of people have asked if you have to read the Grisha trilogy before you can read the Six of Crows duology, and no, you don't have to. There are parts of Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom that refer to things that happen in the Grisha trilogy, but I personally haven't even finished the Grisha trilogy. I'm about halfway through the second book, and I understood everything that happened in here perfectly fine. So you will get kind of spoiled for how that series ends, but at the same time, you don't have to read them if you have no intention of reading them. So that's pretty much all I can say for my spoiler-free section of this video. Again, if you haven't read this book, please pick it up. I cannot recommend it enough. So if you haven't read the Six of Crows duology and you don't want to be spoiled for anything that happens in Crooked Kingdom, then please click out of this video now, go and read this book, and then come back and talk to me about it, because I cannot stop talking about this book and I want everyone to read it because it is just so good. Alright, so if you are still here, I'm assuming that you have read both Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, and without any further ado, let's just get into talking about this book because I have so many feelings. So we're gonna start off with a bang and talk about Mateus because oh my god, I did not see his death coming at all. I got to that page where he was having the conversation with that soldier, and then the chapter ends with him getting shot, and I was like, what is going on? Like, he's gonna be okay, right? Of course he's gonna be okay, and I was in complete denial. And then we get to the chapter where he comes in and he's talking to Nina, and then he's just bleeding and he's dying, and she could save him, but then he dies, and oh my god, it was so good, guys. So good. Honestly, I have such bittersweet feelings towards it because of course I'm really sad because I loved watching Mateus's character grow. It was one of my favorite parts of the whole series, but also I am so happy with how she killed him off because it was so impactful and so meaningful for the story. There's a quote that he says right before he gets shot, and it was honestly one of my favorite quotes from either of the books because it was so beautiful. It's on page 487 when he's talking to that soldier who's calling him a traitor, the one who shoots him, and he says, "Do not be afraid. Fear is how they control you. There is so much in the world that you don't have to be afraid of if you would only open your eyes." Honestly, just reading that, I am getting chills all over again. That quote is so incredible. And then later, as he's dying, when he's talking to Nina, he says, "I need you to save the others." And she says, "What others?" "The other Druskella. Swear to me that you'll at least try to help them, to make them see." And then he says, "Go home to Ravka, Nina. Be free as you were meant to be. Be a warrior as you have always been. Just save some mercy for my people. There has to be a Fjerda worth saving. Promise me." I'm getting chills all over because it's so good. It is so good. But back to what I was saying about how I think his death was so impactful. We go through Mateus's character development from the first book until this book, and we see him go from honestly this bigoted, racist, misogynistic male character who doesn't understand his privilege and he's hateful and he's just blinded by bigotry. But then he grows and changes so much throughout the books, and we get to see him struggling as he tries to unlearn this behavior that's been ingrained into his mind from his his society and his peers and his culture, and then to have him die in the way that he did, coming to terms with who he is and who he wants to be, and understanding that he was taught to hate and wasn't born to hate, and then wanting Nina to do that for his people because he cares about them so much, is just one of the most beautiful things I have ever read in any book ever. I can say that. Like, talking about it right now is like making me tear up because it's just so incredible and it was executed so beautifully. I honestly think that Mateus is one of the best male characters in YA right now. He just serves as such an incredible example of something that a lot of people struggle with and a lot of people have a hard time coming to terms with, and he represents that so well. And his character also serves the purpose of trying to undo some of those harmful norms, and that is just something that I am so happy to see in a YA book. I can't even express how happy it makes me that there are teenagers growing up reading this series and loving this series and taking in the messages from these books, because they are so good and so meaningful and so positive, and it brings me so much joy. So then moving on to Nina's character, she wasn't as big of a part in this book as she was in Six of Crows. Her and Mateus' storyline, I think, played the biggest role in Six of Crows, and in this one we got to focus a lot more on Jasper and Wylan and Kaz and Inej. But I still really did love Nina's parts of this book. I loved getting to see her relationship with Mateus develop so much more positively in here. I absolutely loved the end and how much she cared for Mateus and how much she was willing to do for him after he died and what lengths she was willing to go to. I'm gonna say this about all of them, but Nina is just a fantastic character overall. She's so sassy and so funny, but she's so kind-hearted, and it is just beautiful to see her develop throughout both of the books. I also absolutely loved Wylan's parts in this book. We didn't get any of his perspective in Six of Crows, even though he was still one of the main characters, but in this book we finally got to read from his perspective, and I loved all of those chapters. I absolutely loved getting to see him become part of the Dregs and become a part of their crew and just like slowly love each of them more and accept himself as a part of them. And then of course there's his relationship with Jasper, which is just so great. The scene where he finds out that his mother is still alive and then he's just like a sobbing mess and Jasper is comforting him is so cute. Like, I know it's like a really sad scene because obviously he's devastated because he finds out that his father's been lying to him this entire time, but like, it was adorable, and Jasper like comforting him was just, I couldn't take it. My heart was just about to explode. And then I'll talk more about their relationship when I get into Jasper's character as well, but I also absolutely loved the representation of Wylan's reading disability. So Wylan struggles with reading no matter how much he's been taught. He just has a really hard time learning and understanding it, and it's something that he's really embarrassed about and makes him feel really shameful throughout the books. And getting to see him come to terms with that and accept himself in this book was just another beautiful aspect of this story. Honestly, this book did character development like no other. Every single one of them went through their own personal story arc, and each and every single one of them was equally interesting. And then getting into Jasper's character, Jasper is just one of my favorite characters in the series overall. He is so funny. I am obsessed with him. The scene where he walks in and kisses Kue thinking that it's Wylan honestly had me on the floor cracking up. That was so uncomfortable. Like, the secondhand embarrassment from that scene was so real, especially when Wylan walks in and he like coughs or something to get his attention. Oh my god, that was so funny. But then when he and Wylan finally kiss, that is just wonderful, and I was waiting for that moment since the first book, and it finally happened, and it was as beautiful as I was expecting it to be. But of course, I also love Jasper's storyline individually. I loved getting to see his relationship with his dad develop, and how much his dad cared for him was so meaningful. I love that we finally got like a caring, loving parent, unlike Wylan's dad. I also loved the conversation that Jasper has with Inej. It's the part where he tries to apologize to her for getting her captured because he blames himself, and she tells him not to apologize, and that quote itself is just beautiful. When she says, "There's no time to constantly be apologizing for existing, but when someone does wrong, when we make mistakes, we don't say we're sorry, we promise to make amends." But in that conversation, Jasper's gambling problem also comes up, and Inej talks to him about how he's not dealing with it, and then she says the quote, "Stop treating your pain like it's something you imagined. If you see the wound is real, then you can heal it. I adore their friendship. They are so supportive of each other, and when I read that quote when she said that to him, I couldn't stop smiling. And then when we get towards the end with Jasper's storyline, getting to hear that he and Wylan live together and cook together is honestly the cutest thing I have ever heard. And then when he leaves all of the money to his dad, I was in tears because it was just such a sweet thing to do and just like the most Jasper thing to do. And then moving on to the last two characters and my two favorite characters, Kaz and Inej. I'm gonna be starting with Kaz because oh my god, I love him so much. Kaz is 100% my problematic fave. Like, they're all pretty problematic, but Kaz is like truly the most problematic of all of them. But I love him. I love him to death. The thing I love about Kaz's character so much is how smart he is. I love smart characters, whether they're heroes or villains, it doesn't matter. If a character is really quick-witted, they will automatically become one of my favorites. But the thing that adds so much dimension to him and makes him such an incredible character in my opinion is how much development he goes through. Getting to see that emotionless, cold, ruthless Kaz grow into that same ruthless Kaz who is trying to change is honestly one of the best parts of this series overall. I've said it in this video so many times already, but Leigh Bardugo's ability to develop characters is honestly unbeatable. Kaz has suffered through so much trauma, and while it doesn't excuse all of his behavior, you can really understand his perspective and you can really see why he has some of the motivations that he does, and the way that Leigh Bardugo writes that is so compelling. And then of course we have his relationship with Inej, which if you think that I've been like emotional throughout the rest of this video, I'm about to like start screaming because I love their relationship so much. They are my OTP of OTPs. No one compares to them. They are perfection. So first off, I need to talk about chapter 26 because chapter 26 demolished me. That is the chapter where he and Inej first kiss and he's bandaging her up, and then they have that entire conversation. Either it's in the same chapter or it's the chapter after, where they're just like talking about their like emotional responsiveness and how they're both struggling through so much. That chapter is so beautiful. I have read it 4 times since the first time I read it because I love it that much. One of the things that I really love about their relationship is that even though it's a romantic relationship, it's not romanticized. And what I mean by that is that their characters have gone through so much and they're both victims of trauma, but that trauma is never used to propel their romance. Like, it's not used as the basis of their romance, or it's not why they're attracted to each other. And both of them understand that they each have to grow as individuals and come to terms with their own past and their own demons, and then they can finally be together and grow together. And that is just such a beautiful thing. I can't even express how much I love it. Like, in the end, when he and Inej meet up again and he found her parents for her and she is just so happy and he's just trying to make her happy and he's trying to grow himself and be more kind and loving, and he's finally not wearing his gloves, I couldn't deal with it. I was literally a sobbing mess. It was so beautiful. And then of course we have my queen, Inej, who is like probably my favorite female character of all time. She is so incredible. I love her so much. Getting to see a woman of color as one of the main characters of this series, who is broken but still strong, who has a lot of struggles and a lot that she has to work through, but is still kind and loving, is just beyond words for me. I can't express how meaningful it is and how much her character means to me. When we got to learn her backstory, I was a mess. It was heartbreaking, but it was also dealt with in such a respectful way. I went to one of Leigh Bardugo's signing events and she was talking about Inej's character and how she was writing about a character who was sold into sex slavery, and how she feels that no matter how hard you try and be respectful of that, if you're writing about it in a fictional sense, you're always in some sort of way sensationalizing that, and how she felt that the only way she could truly give back was by donating to GEMS, which 10% of her book sales for Crooked Kingdom on the tour were going to GEMS, which is this organization which supports girls who are victims of human trafficking. And getting to hear her talk about that and say that added a whole other dimension to Inej's character. And I just have this respect for Leigh Bardugo. I love her so much, and I love the way that she has written this character and how much this character means. I honestly can't even express it properly because I just feel too much about it. I just think she is one of the most important characters, not just in this book, but in YA right now. She represents so much and her character is so meaningful and important, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So that pretty much covers all of my thoughts on Crooked Kingdom. As you could tell from my screaming this entire video, I absolutely adored this book with every fiber of my being. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I think that this might be my new favorite book. I can't even express the amount of love I have for this book. It is just unlike anything in its representation, in its themes, in its character development, and if I haven't said it enough already, I just love this book so much. So let me know in the comments down below all of your thoughts on Crooked Kingdom. I would absolutely love to discuss with you. I could talk about this book for days. If you would like to follow me on any of my social media, all of my links are in the description box as always. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!